2003, I sensed something was horribly wrong in my family at home. My son, I knew he was slipping away from us, and this is really hard to talk about, but I started writing, and a year later, we lost Alex.
I did the only thing that I knew how to do. I started writing. And that was the time probably when some of you might have first seen some of my op-ed pieces. I began writing like a mad woman. I mean, words literally became my oxygen.
The outpour of love and support we received made me feel like we need to lift this mask. And it was in that moment that I decided to grieve out loud. I am a Valley girl. I'm homegrown. I was born in Fresno. I grew up in southeast Fresno in a very modest lower middle class neighborhood. I was very uncomfortable in my own skin. You know, it was hard growing up being Armenian. I had curly hair. My name was Armen. I always got put into boys' classes, and I just wasn't sure who I was. Plus, I was an identical twin, and so, you're looking in the mirror, not sure who you are anyway. And my sixth grade teacher said, "You need to read William Saroyan." And he gave me a copy of My Name is Aram. And it was so inspiring because every single page was telling a story about someone who sounded a lot like my uncle, my aunt, somebody I knew in the neighborhood. And little by little, he made me feel very comfortable in my own skin. And reading his work as an adult, as opposed to reading it as a child, the interpretation, the messages are so much deeper about the human condition, about life, and about living life passionately. It was really inspiring to me. My time at Fresno State, I felt like I was just starting to come of age. And during my third year, I remember I used to love hanging out in the library in the stacks way in the back. And I remember coming down the stairs one day and seeing a poster inviting students to apply to study abroad. And that moment for me was so defining. And something in me said, you have to do this. Much to the chagrin of my parents, they said, you're going where? Well, you're going to apply to go to school where? And I wanted to go to France. I had studied the French language all my life. And by August, I was on an airplane with the CSU system, flying to the south of France, where I would spend more than a year studying language and literature and really the study of life. And I credit Fresno State. Had I not, I think, been in a university setting where you're invited to grow and stretch and experiment with life, it would have never happened, and I would probably just be telling you about my life in this little bubble of Fresno. When I decided to leave to explore being a writer/author, it felt like I was diving off my rooftop onto the concrete, and I was scared to death. But there's something about getting goosebumps and being scared that makes you feel like you're in kindergarten all over again.
Fresno State is so magically woven into every chapter of my life. I mean, not only was it the place that gave me wings as a student, but now 4 years after I've lost my child, I get a phone call from Fresno State.
A lecturer in the English department had lost her daughter on Christmas Day, and nobody knew what to do. They said, would you make contact? And I said, of course. And Nancy Miller, my co-author, and I met at Uncle Harry's and across the street from Fresno State. And in a moment unlike anything else, we decided that we would chronicle our grief journeys for one entire year.
I thought, is it possible to take the worst day of my life and use it possibly as a catalyst for the greatest work I will ever do on this planet.
Set us both, I think, on a course that we had no idea that we would be on, but I can't stop. I'm now a full-fledged writer, and I really credit the CSU Summer Arts Program for helping me create that language, to help me learn the craft, and to look at me during my darkest moments and say, yes, you can. Had I not taken that first risk, writing about losing my son, I wouldn't be sitting here today saying, are you sure I'm the top dog? I wouldn't be here. And so that's the message I try to send to everybody is, live your best life, care about other people, but take risks and push the envelope and live your passion.